Hello, everybody. My name is Josh from AFI headquarters. In case you missed it, there was a bit of a train wreck when Hunter and I tried to do our Instagram live interview last week. We're back. We're going to do this for you. We're going to be discussing December Underground, which came out 14 years ago. And I'm very excited and honored to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Hunter Burgan himself. How are you, Hunter?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. It's a really beautiful day out, so I spent some time outside with my nieces. And now I'm chatting with you about a record that made all of us feel old when we found out it was 14.
Oh yeah. Don't
So
even tell
I
me
guess
about it.
I guess we can dive right into it. So, 14 years since December Underground came out, and looking back, how does that sort of hold up in your discography? Where does it rank for you?
Uh, well, let's see. I mean, it's tough. I don't really rank the albums, um, but I mean, it certainly was a kind of an important album. Certainly, like in the arc of the band's career. Um, a lot of firsts, I guess. I mean, it was our first. I guess it was our only number one album. Uh, and I don't know. I mean, it's easy to look at things like these, accolades and chart positions and things, but I mean, I think it was just a cool opportunity that we had to work with great people and have a lot of resources to make an album. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that I would rank it like above other albums necessarily, but okay, I'll say this, it's in the top 10 for me.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Out of 10. Perfect. So I guess, coming off of Sing the Sorrow, you guys had reached such unprecedented success with that. And it had kind of taken you to this new level where you had gone from a band that was really popular to a certain market of people to a band that was popular with a whole ton of new fans coming from all over the place. And so coming off of that, kind of like the biggest success you guys had ever seen, was there any pressure you were putting on yourselves to create December Underground? Was there any pressure from the label? What was that like for you stepping in to write and record December Underground? Did you know that you had to like exceed or match the hype from the previous record?
Uh, we wanted to. I mean, we like, it when you're in sort of an upward trajectory in terms of marks of success, whether it's like albums sold or reaching bigger audiences, playing bigger shows. If you're heading upward, you want to keep going upward. So certainly we wanted also like our ability to record, to write songs better than we'd written before, and also record them and realize them as we wanted to. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I think there may have been some sort of kind of invisible pressure from the label, but it wasn't anything that we were also not like completely agreeing with. We wanted to do well and to do better than we had done before, and it's tough because sometimes that's not pressure, it's not obvious, it's not like right at the front of your mind, it's in the back of your mind thinking like, okay, we have to like do something better than we've done. I mean, we're always trying to do that, we always try to do something better than what we've done in the past, but certainly, yeah, certainly at that around that time, a lot of the things that with all the new fans, like you said, and increased press coverage and chart stats and all these numbers and things throwing at us, it's easy to start to believe that those are the marks, or like those are the ways that you measure success, and not other ways. So yeah, I mean, definitely pressure, but it's not like the label was like, you guys got to make some hits, and it's not like we were like, we got to make some hits. It's just like, it's an environment of pressure.
Right. And so, like, just kind of spinning off of that, what was the writing process like for this record? Was it any different to what you had done before? I mean, you guys really leaned into the electronic sound. You kind of explored it on like Art of Drowning, Sing the Sorrow, but December Underground was the first record I can think of where it was a really prevalent part of the record, where it would be like almost a completely different album if you hadn't used those kinds of components and elements. So what was the writing process like for you guys?
Yeah, it was. We were trying a lot of different things. I mean, we, you know, we a lot of the sort of core methods stayed the same. Like many of the songs were, you know, songs that Dave and Jade had just like gotten together and written. We also were still spending a lot of time rehearsing them and sort of banging them out in a room, as they say.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we were kind of at a point where we were, because of that sort of environment of pressure, we were at a point where we were like, anything goes. Like we can, anything that we think will work, that will result in like a better song than we've done in the past, or a better song than this other one that's a contender. Like, let's try it. Let's do it. Anything we can. And we had, you know, theoretically we had time, like endless time and money and resources to sort of chase this thing. So yeah, so some of the songs were, like I said, songs that Dave and Jade worked out kind of on their own. Sometimes we met up, all four of us, at like Dave's house to work on. So, I mean, I have this like this distinct memory of all of us sitting at his table working on what is it? Falling Like the Sky? Is that the name of the song?
That is one of your songs, yeah.
That song didn't really like, you know, didn't end up on the album, so it's like just kind of disappeared. Like well, we had, you know, some songs are like B-sides, like for releases in like other territories, and sometimes it's like a special edition thing and whatever, and so I lose track of what's what. But yeah, so, and then some of the songs, I mean, it was just kind of all over the place, and many of the songs we had before we started pre-production. We went to a kind of weird ranch studio in Northern California that we had never been to before, like specifically to do pre-production on the album. Jerry Finn flew up and was there, and it was kind of a weird session because it's like we had a lot of this material, but some of it was sort of amorphous. Like everyone knew that Love Like Winter was going to be a big song, but we couldn't play it as a band. Like it just didn't, it required I mean, like it ended up being like the most challenging song, I think, to record out of all the songs. And we ended up having to go so far down a crazy road to chase it. And I think one of the reasons is the demo that Dave and Jay did, like completely on their own, was so like so striking and so whole, yet not like necessarily good enough to just be like, hey, here's a finished song. But it was just like, so it like set such a high mark for what the song should be, and everybody that heard it was like, oh, that's a hit. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't all independently think like, oh, so when you re-record it you will do this or that, but maybe everyone had kind of a different idea of like exactly how it should be refined. And it was hard for us to approach because there were so many elements that were programming, so we couldn't just like play it in a rehearsal room. And I think because of that, Jerry Finn had a little bit of trouble sort of understanding exactly how to take it and bring it across the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of backburnered it, even though we knew like this is an important track for sure. We will get this and we will nail it. But so the first kind of rehearsal, our pre-production session, was a little bit strange. Like we had some stuff, but it didn't feel like we had a whole record. And maybe we did. I don't even remember. But yeah, so then that led directly into another pre-production session in Southern California in another studio, like a studio where I want to say like Michael Jackson had rented the studio out for like a period of time and like lived there. And and
Tragic.
I wish I had more things like I want to say maybe it was like the piano that from Motley Crue, Home Sweet Home, was there. I hope I'm not just like making these things up. I'm sure some, I mean, every studio has, in Southern California has some sort of like
An
some
item.
crazy history, but so yeah, so I remember being there and kind of actually trying to write stuff in this studio. Like we're shelling out money not only for places to stay. um I mean, and when I say we're shelling out money, the label's shelling out money, but it's money that's like recoupable against our record. So it's like it technically is our money. It's like money that we, if we didn't spend it, we could actually like make it back sooner.
Hmm.
um but still, it's part of this idea that like we have all this time and money, and back then you would spend so much money on a record if it was like a big production record that you wouldn't necessarily expect to like recoup those costs. Like, that's just part of the deal, so yeah, so we spent some time there and worked on some songs. And I do remember like kind of things, jams that we had that were kind of cool that maybe could have been something, but over time, eventually we actually made it into the the actual recording studio and started tracking. And but yeah, by this point, kind of anything that was sort of viable was a contender. Like, hey, here's all these songs, and we knew like certain ones we were going to track. Um, and I mean, I think even late into the process, um, Luke Wood, our A&R guy, was like, hey, you guys, I wish I could remember all the song names now. Um, let me look at like, hold on a second.
Go get your copy.
Let me look at just let me look at stuff so I know exactly, so I can speak specifically to what I'm talking about here. Uh, okay, hold on.
While you're doing that, I heard a story, and I don't know if it's true or not. I'm hoping you can confirm. I heard that Luke Wood punched Davey in the mouth for singing a part wrong like 40 times. Is that true?
Where did you hear it from? I mean, that's like one of those things that's like, knowing Luke, like Luke wouldn't do that. But then again, like knowing their sort of like playful antagonistic relationship, like um, maybe maybe it's true. I don't know. Um, I mean, certainly I've heard stranger things that I wasn't, a witness to. But yeah. Oh, Summer Shutter.
Okay.
Okay, so Summer Shutter was like not in our first chunk of, or like not in the main chunk of songs. We'd basically gotten close to being done with the album, and there were a couple songs that were like slated for to be recorded, um, but weren't necessarily coming together. And Summer Shutter was a song that once again also had been like, Dave and Jade had demoed it out completely, and um, and it was like Adam. We never played it as a band. It's just sort of like a song that had been written, and but Luke loved it and was like, "Please, you guys have to record this song." And we're like, "I don't know, like we didn't vote for. We're very democratic, and so like we didn't vote for it to be in this like main chunk of songs that we were going to actually record." But he was like, "No, you have to do it." And so kind of reluctantly, we're like, "Oh, okay, all right, we'll do it." Um, and I mean, I think that song's great, but it's like you never kind of know how things are gonna actually take life once they're recorded, and you do your best job of sort of thinking like, well, this is the main chunk of songs that we feel is like the album. So yeah, there was one song that we were recording that never totally got finished. It was like kind of an epic, like almost one of those like Led Zeppelin type epic songs that has like parts and movements and like changes and stuff, and it never actually like came together. Somewhere I have a CD of it that I like, of whatever point it was at, that so I could drive around and like work on harmonies for it. um
Well,
but
great. There's Jade's iPod. There's Hunter's CDs. What's next? Just the
yeah.
vault of B-sides and unreleased music.
Yeah, so that's I'm trying to think if there's any other things about this, like you're saying, just sort of the writing and the I guess the early tracking of things that um let's see. The Prelude 1221 also didn't kind of come together until a little later in the game. um which was that was song was kind of, it was mostly there, but it was also kind of conceptual, and everybody had ideas about what it should be, and um, I actually got to do some programming on that song, and like I will take credit. I will I will take credit for the sort of echo that's on the drum beat.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, that was my idea.
Bear. Well
I
done.
get some ideas out, you know, here and there. Um, but yeah. So I don't know. Ask me another question. I'm rambling.
Okay, I can do that. So, with the three records prior to that, Black Sails in the Sunset, Art of Drowning, and Sing the Sorrow, at the end of the record, there was some sort of hidden track after some period of silence. Another hidden song would come along, play, and oftentimes that becomes kind of a fan favorite. It's this kind of like hidden secret. Was there any sort of conscious decision to not do that on December Underground, or did it just not come up organically?
It's it's one of those things where like it didn't come up organically. There wasn't like, so okay, on uh on Black Sails it was Midnight Sun, and that was just a song that we had recorded that, like, for whatever reason we voted and it wasn't like, didn't make the cut, but we just thought, oh, that'll be cool, hidden track, that's like a thing. And um on Art of Drowning, Battled was kind of a joke song. Like, we just thought it was, I mean, it's like kind of a throwback. We were like it was kind of like us making fun of ourselves in a way, like
Battle.
sort of recreating this kind of old school energy. Um, and we just liked that sort of kind of, I don't know, it just had a fun vibe to it. So we just thought that that would be like a good hidden track, and I don't know. Um, so, and Sing the Star was definitely more of like a conceptual thing. Like we thought about that being like, okay, what will be the thing and this and that. And I think for this album, it was just like, it was just a little bit of like kind of just putting the album together. I think it would just, also the more times you do something, the less it's sort of like has a cool uniqueness to it. So, like, what's like the coolest thing? A hidden track. What's the second coolest thing? Not a hidden track.
Right on. And so, you know, we've obviously touched on B-sides a little bit, but there were a ton for this record that have been released through different mediums, whether it's like Guitar Hero exclusives, iTunes exclusives, the Japanese press of December Underground. Were there any that didn't make the cut that you really wish had?
uh, I mean, do you mean make the cut for the record?
Yes.
Um, I mean, I think it would have been cool. Many of those B-sides were not like like properly recorded in the studio, like with the same attention to production as the song that ended up on the album. And I think that the ones that weren't, it would have been really interesting to see how we would have done them in a proper studio. Um, not that that's like, not that that matters that much, but it's, that's always something that's cool. I don't think that, I mean, I think it's hard for me to remember what I voted for when we actually were voting. Um, I mean, I don't dislike any of the songs on the album, so it's not like there was something that I was like, oh, I wish that it had been this song instead of this. Um, I probably voted for like The View from Here. Although I don't know what I would have not voted for.
Miss
So
Murder.
no, I mean, like, I think, Miss Murder is only like, I only feel how I feel about Miss Murder now because I've played it 10,000 times.
Right.
It's not, it has nothing to do with the song itself. It's just that it's just, it's lost that sort of new shiny newness.
Right. When you guys wrote that, did you realize that it was going to be as big as it was?
No, like, to me, I thought Now this is before all the production and everything. This is just us in the room just jamming it. I thought it was like it seems so piratey. I know I said that in the other chat, but it just something about that yo ho, like I don't know. So I just thought like, oh, this is kind of a cool song, definitely a cool song, but I just thought like this might end up feeling more like kind of a novelty song than like some of these other songs.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's based on us just like playing it in the room, and certainly the more that we played it, the more nuanced it became, and then certainly with once it was actually in production with all the different layers and things, it actually became a very mature song. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just worried about it being like kind of like a kid song or something.
Right.
And
And
I say kids, I mean like a children's song.
yes, I
But
understood. Don't worry.
yeah,
Just coming back to the idea of this full record, it's such an interesting title for the record, December Underground. Where did that come from?
I have no idea. It's a lyric. It's a lyric from the interview.
Right.
But where Dave got that from, I mean, I guess you could read any interview since this record came out, and he would say December Underground is a time and a place where
Right.
where the people huddle together, and I don't know. I used to know the words, but it's yeah. I mean, like I cannot speak to any of the meanings behind the lyrics. I mean,
Right.
that's Dave's
Yeah.
poetry, and like I can't, that's like I can joke about it, but like it has meaning, and that's for him to talk about, not me.
Right. Absolutely. And so we've touched on it a bit. You've recounted some really strong memories of the album cycle. Do you have any other like significant moments from either the recording or the touring process? Any like funny stories or any sort of emotional moments that still stand out to you almost 15 years later?
Uh, let me let me look through the track listing here and just see what see how okay. I'll just tell you the thoughts that come to my head. Okay, so Prelude, we talked about that briefly. Kill Caustic. Kill Caustic is a fun song to play live, I have
It
to say.
is so fun.
I mean, I know that it's probably murder on Dave's throat, um, but for good reason. I mean, he's just like tearing it up through that song. Um, let's see. Miss Murder, we talked about. I mean, I have like dumb anecdotes that are like, okay, Miss Murder, I tore a hole in my finger playing that song in the studio, uh, because it's like, it's like these
Mhm.
octaves, and I'm sliding, boom, 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 so much sliding on my ring finger that just from not the actual tracking of it, but like the getting the tones and everything, I ended up like just boring a hole beyond all calluses into my finger, and I had to use super glue to like fill it up, which is a trick that I learned from Flea, not personally, but from I read somewhere that he had like filled a blister or something on his finger with super glue. I'm like, oh, it's finally I get a chance to use this. So
Really just waiting to leap at that opportunity.
yeah, well, it's good. It's like the little tools you like stick in your toolbox for later. Summer Shutter, we talked about that. I remember playing the what was it, like the video game awards or some something we played it. I just remember like this really really long catwalk away from the drums, like over to the side, like a extra long thing. I don't know. Let's see. Love Like Winter is so that one is crazy because it took us so long, like I was saying, to really sort of find the song. And both Love Like Winter and Miss Murder, I think we were kind of we went into the weeds on those songs, and both required like, we were throwing everything out there trying to just see what worked, and like bring like Jade obviously did like a ton of programming on those songs, like so much. I think he came in on one of those or both with so many tracks of programming that Jerry was like, you have to reduce this number. Like, we don't have that many channels open. Like, it's impossible. So, but then, yeah, we also like had a couple other outside people like sending us programming ideas for things and stuff, and everybody was kind of trying to like help shape these songs, and it's like the songs were probably already great. I mean, these songs were great from the demos, like which is all credit to Jade. Like, he's so brilliant at like doing that stuff. But it was like, everybody heard something that wasn't quite there. Like, it's almost there. Like, it's almost this. And it was like kind of tough to not just be like completely resigned. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, we're here. We've done everything we can think of. And I think we ended up on Love Like Winter. We ended up like trying so many different things on the chorus. We ended up having to go into like additional studios to like like at the end of the process. Like, the record's done and we're still like trying more things. And I remember us being like, okay, this is the finish line here. We're crossing this tomorrow, no matter what. We have an appointment at the mixing studio, and Chris Lord Alge is going to mix this song like wherever it's at. And I remember being in the studio and having Luke. I had just kind of phoned in the bass line at this point because I was just like tired of I didn't know what the drums were going to be, because the drums had changed multiple times. I was just like, it's hard for me to like really dig into a song that's I don't really know how it's supposed to be. But he had suggested that I like try a new bass line. I'm like, we're mixing this tomorrow. We don't have a studio anymore. Like, I have a little like tiny like Pro Tools recording, like an M-Box in the guest room where I'm staying, because we didn't even have apartments anymore. Like, everyone was gone. And so I went home that night. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just try a couple things. So I tried a super busy bass line, recorded the whole thing. I tried one that was like super, super sparse, really like simplified. And then I tried one that had a more of a like an octavey approach, like the Miss Murder octavey, kind of, I guess you could say, like kind of more of like a disco influence.
Pirate music.
That was meant to be like a wild card. And I brought these three to the sort of pre-mixing huddle at Luke's house the next morning, and had everybody, or had whoever wanted to listen to him. I'm like, I don't know, pick one, like whatever. And Jade went in, and this had never occurred to me. He went in, like, kind of chopped them up, and like use part of this one, part of this one, part of this one, like, and I was like, that's brilliant. Like, I'm like, okay, awesome. I kind of cleaned it up. We like put it on a disc or a drive or whatever, and brought it into the mixing session, and gave it to Chris Lord Alge, and he put it in there, and he's like, oh, he's like, he's pretty, he's like a no nonsense dude, no nonsense mixer. Like, if he's not feeling something, like a synth track that you've been working on like for a really long time, it's a delicate little nuanced thing, but he's not feeling it, he'd just be like, nope. No. He's like, wasn't doing anything for me. So I'm like, oh God, he's gonna know that I just recorded this like in this random room, like this isn't a studio recorded thing. But he put it on, and he's like kind of feeling, he's like, you recorded this yourself? Like, what did you use? I'm like, just this simple like stuff. He's like, oh, sounds good. So I don't know if he was just like, just kind of,
Mm-hmm. So, December Underground comes out. You release it 6/6/06, which is probably the best release date for a record you will ever do. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's massive. It goes number one. You know what? Let's talk about that first. Where were you when you found out that December Underground had gone number one? What was that like?
I don't remember.
What?
I don't, because because it's been so long that I've like mixed up all these different things in my mind of like where I was
Hmm.
or where we were. I mean, I guess you could probably look at some like archival calendar and figure out, because I I don't, because at some point we heard that that Sing the Sorrow was going to debut at number 5, and that was like super significant. But I think we were at the airport maybe. um but yeah, we'd heard some kind of things like, hey, listen, you're up against like, Sing the Sorrow, we were up against like 50 Cent and trying to remember who else. That's the one that always sticks with me. But we were up against some heavy hitters again, and so we didn't know.
Hmm.
We knew that like, hey, it's going to be good. Like the the people in like the shipping department or whatever had been able to like kind of leak some information that like it's going to probably be pretty good. But but that doesn't, we're not thinking, okay, well, we got number 1. We, like if it had been number 2, we would have been like, oh my God, that's amazing, number 2. um, so yeah, it was and remains pretty surreal to think that happened, especially like in the context of today with how sales are and charts and I mean, that was a point in time where us, like a rock band, could sell enough physical copies of an album to be like at the very top of all like the music charts.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
So when you found out that you had this number one record, that fact kind of sinks in a little bit. For as long as I've known you guys have always been really down to earth and really chill. Was there ever a point where you're like, I have a number one record? Hi, I'm Hunter from the number one record selling band, AFI. Was there ever like any kind of like swelling of the ego because of that?
I mean, probably. There probably was. I mean, I think maybe relative to other people and other bands and other scenes, like because we kind of came up with the punk scene, there's sort of this kind of I don't know, kind of a built-in sort of humbleness,
Hmm.
um, and it's it's weird. Kind of, on one hand, you have like the sort of like kind of the humble nature of like this of a punk situation, but then also kind of this like cockiness of a rock situation. You have to have that attitude, a cocky attitude, swagger, to
Hmm.
sell certain kinds of rock. So we're kind of in the middle there. I'm sure there are people will be like, oh my God, those guys' heads were so huge for that reason at that point in time. I don't know. I would say no, but
I A friend of mine is in a band who was on Warp Tour with you guys when you did your run in 2006, and his big complaint from that is that you guys didn't want to share your equipment with anybody.
yeah, I mean, and that's just like, you know, I
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah, I get it too. Don't you worry. I'm in a local band and I don't want to share my equipment with people. Um,
Yeah.
and so, the reception for December Underground was obviously so massive, and the marketing was bigger than anything you'd done. Like millions of people were being exposed to you guys with this record, and ultimately, it culminated in the largest headlining show you guys have ever done at the Long Beach Arena. And I
Yep.
don't know if it was more than one show. Some of the footage like almost seems like it was blended together from a couple, but again, ultimately, that was the biggest headline show you've done. What was the decision to, kind of go for something that was so, I don't know, like you had never really done it before, like an arena show headlining something like 10,000 people are coming out. What was the big, what, let's go for it. Let's try to do this kind of show. Where did that come from?
I mean, I think it was just the the numbers like led to that point. Like the shows we'd played leading up to that point, and certainly within like the Southern California region, like if we hadn't gone for that, we would have had to do multiple nights at like a smaller place. And it's the idea is always kind of shoot a little higher and higher and higher. Um, so, but then also I think you know we uh, we had the idea to film all that stuff, to film that. I think we filmed multiple nights on that, or no, we didn't film multiple nights. We had the same production. This is what it was. We had the same production for that show that we had for that whole run. It was like a week or two, kind of building up to that idea.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, the numbers were just, working in our favor,
All right, so we're talking about the numbers that led up to you playing that I Heard a Voice show, and who came up with the idea to like record it and make like a live DVD? And would you guys ever consider doing something like that again? I mean, your catalog has obviously expanded a lot since then. You've put out a ton of great songs. Is that on the table, or was that kind of a one-time deal?
I would love to do that again. And I don't know who thought of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't, if somebody else in the band was here and said it was definitely so and so, I'd be like, yep, because I don't remember.
That's okay, man. And so obviously that must have been a pretty special show for you, but you guys also chose to include a bunch of DF members, and a bunch of your touring crew to kind of do this little documentary about where the band was at that point in time. And so what is it about your fans that is maybe sets them aside from other bands' fans, and why do you guys consistently go out of your way to do such great things to include them?
I mean, I think, you know, like our fans have always had sort of a sort of like a culture that always felt bigger than the band. Like they, like we're here and we create this little thing, like we create a record and we play a show or whatever. And that's, we're carrying something this far. And then the fans take that and build it into what it is, build it into this huge thing. And it's, like I said, it's like a culture and it's like a whole community. And it's like, it's amazing. Like not every band has that.
Hmm.
And so, and like I said, the part that we do to sort of spark that seems so like minimal, and yet the outcome is so huge. And so I feel like any chance that we can get to sort of give back and sort of you know to thank the fans for all that they're doing to make it such a big thing is like that's the least we can do.
Well, I mean, just with my short time with AFI headquarters, you guys have done a ton for us. So I can only imagine how above and beyond you guys have gone for your fans over the past almost 30 years of the band existing. Obviously, you came in around 97, but I'm sure I speak for a solid majority of your fan base when I say that it's so appreciated. And that's probably a big reason why so many people are willing to kind of like carry that torch for you guys, is because they know that you appreciate it, and you consistently show that. Touring for December Underground was kind of relentless. You guys were on the go nonstop. And so when that finally wrapped up, I'm sure a lot of people kind of expected you to kind of go into hibernation, but it seemed to be the peak of creative energy for you, because you started Hunter Revenge. You started doing all of your YouTube videos, the classics like Abraham drinking, this place is the pits, that kind of thing, right? And so where was all this creative energy coming from for you? Did the success and like the hype of December Underground kind of energize you, or was this all stuff that you kind of just had in reserve and were waiting for a good time to put that out?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so with Hunter Revenge specifically, that project was really, that started in like 99 2000, of me just sort of putting songs onto the internet. and finally I decided to put them all together in a CD that came out in the summer of 2001, and that was going to be it. That was the whole thing. Like I had some other song ideas, but it was like not meant to be anything more than just sort of a fun project. And I think in that lull after, I guess actually technically there was a period of time where in between Sing the Sorrow and December Underground where I played some shows, and that was kind of just an afterthought. Like somebody asked me if I wanted to, or if I would like be willing to play a show and do the Hunter Revenge material, and I thought, well, that's weird. Like, like how would that be? Like that's, and so I think I once again picked that up after December Underground, and sort of just, I didn't really try to push it. It was just something to sort of like, I don't know, just a fun way to pass the time and to continue to play shows. But it wasn't really a very, like it didn't, I kind of lost money doing it because the band is the band.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me. And so, I would have to hire my friends to rehearse and hire them to play the shows. And then the show would only give me like $100. And so I'd be like, well, it was fun. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, with all the videos and that thing, I think it was just, that was, we had entered an age of YouTube, and I was just kind of had the free time to just play around with that. I mean, I'm always doing something creative with my free time, and at that time, it was just happened to be that.
Right on. So, I mean, I have to credit this to Jeff Cork and Ben Hansen from the podcast that you did, but they kind of credited you with doing Vines before Vine was even a thing. And so, like,
yeah, I guess that is kind of.
And so this kind of creative energy, like right now, you're doing Cats with Matches, which has been every week for the past couple of years. What haven't you done that you might enjoy, branching out to do after Cat with Matches finally gets caught by a dog or something?
I mean, I've had this goal for years now. So Cat with Matches has been every single Monday since I guess in about a month or two, it'll be 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea has always been like, this is a good way for me to get at this sort of humor and illustration that I want to do, and it's a good discipline to be doing something every week. And I keep telling myself, okay, well, I'm going to put together these comics and put them, maybe draw a couple extra ones and then put them into a book. And I've been saying that for every year since since it started. But then when what it comes down to is like each week I have like only so many hours that I want to dedicate to drawing, and that ends up going into the comic. And then I think like, I need to remember to like make a book. So I would love to actually get my shit together and actually put those into a book. So that's but in terms of like other types of creative outlets, I don't know. I always want to spend more time painting, and I never do. I would love to just do more music, like different projects with different people. I know right now is kind of a weird time for getting together
Mm-hmm.
and playing with people, and certainly like a really hard time to do shows without getting creative. But I think there's there's a lot of opportunities for music collaborations that are a little more remote right now, and I guess I would like to be doing more of those.
All right, we'll hit you up. We'll pay you $666 to track bass for one of our records.
All right, that's my going rate, I guess.
Cool, man. So the last kind of question I have is, obviously you did something right with December Underground. You know, it went number one. It kind of propelled you guys into the spotlight all over the world. But looking back at it, is there anything that you wish you could change, or to sort of like name off a cliche, if you could talk to 2005 Hunter who was writing December Underground, what kind of, you know, opinions or advice or input would you have for that, you know, being older and more experienced now?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I imagine that if whenever I think about when people ask me that question, like, what would you say to your 10-year-old self now? I'm like, man, my 10-year-old self wouldn't have listened to an old me from the future. Like, you're like, who are you?
Why don't you have hair?
But then I guess the December Underground era me is like has no hair either. So
Oh, yeah, you got me
so
there.
I'd be like, I know you. You look familiar. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I mean, at the time, I knew that a lot of the things that were happening were really special moments that that I should really try to take in and cherish every second of. Like when we played Saturday Night Live, I remember thinking like, we're on Saturday Night Live. This is amazing. I've wanted to do this my whole life,
Hmm.
and it's now. It's right now. And in that moment, I'm trying to take it in, I'm trying to absorb it as much as I can. But inevitably, it's been like 13 years since then. Um, the memories fade. They just do. There's nothing you can do to like, take in more than you're taking in that moment. So, um, I don't know that there's anything that I would say to my younger self, because I already felt like I need to really appreciate this. But yeah, I mean, I would probably give myself some stock tips, or some sort of future information that would be helpful, I guess.
Absolutely. Invest in the
It
iPhone.
wouldn't be related to the album. It would just be, this
All
other
right.
stuff.
Well, I guess that just about wraps it up. But do you have any final thoughts or words on the record? Anything that we might have missed that you wanted to talk about?
Uh, I mean, what did I miss any song trivia?
I'm sure if you don't talk about like Affliction or Endlessly She Said, somebody's going to be upset.
Well, okay, Affliction. That's a song on the album.
That is
Um, The Missing Frame. Um, Kiss,
also a
and
song on the album.
Kiss and Control, also on the album. Uh, the Killing Lights, also on the album.
That's true.
Uh, 37 millimeter. There's a song on the album. Endlessly She Said, that's on the album. Oh, you know what? We could do a little quick, if you wanted to, if you want to drag this out longer.
Yeah, let's
We could
go.
do we could do a breakdown of the B-sides, if you
Okay.
wanted to know. Like, I know you'd asked before, kind of like what if sort of where they came from.
Hmm. So, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to forget some, but just going off the top of my head, the first one that I think of is Fainting Spells, the one that came out on the Crash Love Expanded Edition.
Yeah, okay. Painting Spells was one that we had recorded. Oh my God. I'm trying to remember how that song goes. Um, that one we had recorded in the studio properly, and then it just wasn't going to make the cut for the record. So it just ended up as a B-side.
The View from Here.
Same thing with that one. That one was like almost made the record and then just didn't.
Hmm. Fallen Like the Sky.
That one didn't make the cut for the record, and so I think the version that is out is like the demo version, probably from whatever point before. Maybe we did it at like Art of Ears or something. I'm trying to remember. Somebody else knows that. I don't know it.
Absolutely. What about On the Arrow?
On the Arrow was that was kind of we recorded that after the album was done, and that was interesting because we sort of did it in different. Everyone kind of did their own parts. Like Jade and Dave did did stuff to it, and then I got the tracks, and I went to a studio in Luke's, like a little room in Luke's house, and did all the harmonies and stuff there, um, and the bass, or maybe I did the bass at home. I don't remember. Yeah, but it was kind of, it was interesting because it was like it was very much a collaboration, but not all together in the studio.
Hmm. Okay, so Rabbits or Roadkill?
Rabbits was recorded in during this Sing the Sorrow session.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's I had voted for that song to be on the record,
Hmm.
and it just somebody thought it was too similar to another song, and so it didn't end up on there.
So, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think that's all the B-sides that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure somebody's yelling at their screen.
Oh, I think there's more. There's the Rabbits Head Like a Hole.
Oh, true. On the Grand Theft
That
Auto
was,
San Andreas soundtrack.
yeah, that was just recorded specifically for that soundtrack, and just as a completely it was just unrelated. It was just timing wise, it was just around that time, and so um, yeah, different studio, and I think Butch Vig produced that one. Both Don't Change and Jack the Ripper were just Dave and Jade. Like, that had nothing to do with me or Adam. Carcinogen Crush was that was a song that we had recorded during Sing the Sorrow. That was a song that I wrote that was like, I don't know, like so many songs I wrote that just didn't end up kind of coming together. Um, and then in the time between the records, Jade sort of retooled the chorus on it, and then we recorded it again. But I don't remember exactly when or how. I think it just sort of, I don't know. The song had changed so many times from like my original vision for the song that my brain hasn't cataloged all the different like steps and ways that it took before it actually became a released song. So I don't really remember. Then I'll Be Home. I don't even know what that is. That's a
Oh, that's
interlude.
that's that in between song after
Yeah.
Affliction.
Okay. Yeah, that's not. Yeah. Okay. And then The View from Here. So that's it. That's all of the things covered. Got it.
Excellent. And so
Uh,
I guess the last thing is, what's next for you, Hunter? What are you up to? I know AFI's new record is done. We're obviously going to be waiting for that for a while until this
yeah.
COVID thing is over. But what are you up to?
Just I've been working on trying to do my best to continue the producing that I've been doing, which is tougher now because of the pandemic. So it's resulted in me doing more demoing and kind of just songwriting, and then sort of remote production like things. Um, and so I've been working with Dear Boy, which has been cool, doing stuff with them. And yeah, so it's that's kind of what's currently in the mix for me. But I don't know exactly. I mean, I think nobody really knows exactly what's going to be happening with with shows and things, at least for a while. And so I'm just trying to stay open to opportunities, and do my best under these circumstances.
You're doing excellent work, Hunter. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with
Yeah,
me. If you don't already, for some reason, follow Hunter on all of his social medias. On Twitter, he's Tranquil Mammoth. Instagram, Hunter Burgan. Facebook, Hunter Burgan. He's putting out Cats with Matches every single week. He's putting
cat
out
with
great
matches.
songs with a great band every couple of years. That'll come soon enough. Hunter, thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, nice talking to you, man.
You too. All right, take care.